Yeah. Okay. That's the
Okay,
one.
so let's see if this live will work this time. I have no idea, and if anybody else will join us. So let's just, fingers crossed, hope that somebody actually sees our new stream. And let me see if I can actually stop the old one a moment. So if anybody else is actually watching this, anybody's joining us from the new stream, please do bear with us, because we are experiencing a few technical issues. Okay.
Oh, it seems to be working. I see the live stream.
Okay, so let's see if I can actually get the stream up. So anybody that's joining in, just bear with me. We are just experiencing a few technical issues. Let's just see if we can get these technical issues sorted out. Okay, stream, 5 people are watching, so we've got a live stream. Okay, so we do have a live stream.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, so there we go. Can you actually see? Can you see me now? Can you see me and hear me now? It's only taken, what, 15, 20 minutes to get to this point? So can you actually see? Can you hear? Can you just let me know in the chat if you can? And then we'll go back over the first 15 minutes of the live stream. So fingers crossed. Let me know anyway. Let me know in the chat section.
Yeah, it seems like it's going well.
Okay. Well, I can see chat things coming up, and people can obviously see us. So let's just try this again. New comments. Let's have a little look. Yes, seeing you. Happy. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Right, so we're going to start off the first 15 minutes of the live stream all over again. First 18 minutes. So thank you very much for bearing with me while we've had this technical issue, which can't really complain. It's the first one we've had since starting these last year. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me. I'll go and do the usual hellos and everything in a moment. But before we do, I want to say tonight I've got a special guest on to join me the conversation of the topic we want to talk about. So if you'd like to take a moment, I'd like to introduce my guest tonight, which is Casino. And I'm sure many of you know Kay and you've seen his work. If you haven't, you really need to go and do a search on YouTube for Casino and take a look at his YouTube channel and his YouTube videos. He does some amazing work. And since we kind of reached out to have a little chat probably about the best part of a year ago now, we've become pretty good friends, and I think we share a lot of things in common. So tonight we're going to talk about a particular topic. We're going to share some of our experiences, some of the ways that we've handled those different things. Before we do, I just want to say a quick hello and get Casey New to actually just introduce himself and let us know a little bit about what he does. Okay.
Hello. As some of you may know, I call myself the Digital Alchemist, and I'm really thrilled to be talking to Paul's audience tonight because I really appreciate Paul. I kind of met him a year ago in a comment, and ever since we've been talking, we've been geeking out about gear, about a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of things in common. And I really love the work that he's doing. I have a lot of respect for his work and a lot of respect for you guys and girls, his audience. So basically, we started talking and we had a lot of things to share in common, basically, because we have kind of the same view about web design, web development, and the whole industry. So I think it's really interesting to be introduced to you tonight because, like I said, I've been a fan of Paul's work for a long time, even before I met him. And it was really great to start talking to him and just to exchange views because, yeah, like I said, I'm just repeating myself, but we have a lot of things in common because in the industry, there's a lot of content going on, but we really have a, shall I say, a professional view of how things are actually working in the real world. So yeah, I really appreciate that, and I'm really thankful to be here tonight, and thankful to meet you, guys and girls.
And it's great to have you here as well. And like you say, we do have a lot of business sort of experience and things like that in common. So we're going to touch upon some of those things tonight. Before we do, let's do the usual, say hello to some of the people that are actually joined in and thankfully come over from the previous live stream to the one that actually works. So for those old enough to understand, I've put an extra 50 pence in the meter and we should have enough juice now to last us till the end of the live stream. So who we got in this evening and who we're going to say hello to. So, quite a few have joined over, so that's really good to see everybody here. So, I'm just going to quickly scroll up to the top of the long list. Abdul, good evening. Charlie Bird, always a pleasure to see you. Balram, Ripal, Neil, Hirusha, Sam, Grant. Who have we got? Juan Sanchez, Wahid, Michael Wright. Well, some great people. We've actually great to see you all in again tonight, and so many faces that are new coming in, which is always great. So, Joe Shields, nice to see you here tonight. One Solution HQ, Christoph Keppens. I hope I'm saying these names right because I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Marco, David Walls, good to see you. Good evening to Indianapolis. And we've got, who else do we have? Shrizo Oliveira, good evening. Stardust, good to see you as always. Now, I'm going to quickly go and say what I said earlier on. So, I'm sure Kay's bored of this now because I've already said this once anyway. Yeah. If you are into Oxygen Page Builder or you're interested in Oxygen Page Builder, check out Stratos's channel on YouTube. Just do a search for Stratos Tutorials. He's doing some great work over there showing you how to get more out of Oxygen Builder. If you're new to Oxygen Builder, you've been using it for a little while, or you just want to see what it's all about, go and check out Stratos' channel on YouTube and take a little look. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash the bell icon, and don't give it a thumbs down, give it a thumbs up. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. Good evening, Lillian. Good to see you in again tonight. Dirk, yes, we are back. We are working, and we are good to go. Okay, so what do we want to talk about tonight? Well, the first and main topic is going to be all about problem clients. Now, if you've never had a problem client, you will have a problem client at some point. If you've had a problem client or more than one, please do share your experiences with us tonight because, as always, this is a two-way conversation, or now a three-way conversation. So we're just going to kind of talk about some of the experiences we've had, some of the types of problems we've found, how we've dealt with different things, and I'd love you to share your experiences, the way that you've dealt with things in the chat section. And if you're watching this on replay, do the same thing in the comments section. Drop in the kinds of problems you've had with clients and how you've dealt with them. Obviously, no names or links or anything else will be mentioned, either by me tonight, by Kay tonight, or anybody in the comment section. So that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. So, like I say, let us know all about your experiences. So, Kay, what's been the worst experience you've had with a client, and what kind of experience was it?
Okay, so before I start, I want to say that most of my clients are really excellent. I have a really good relationship with my clients, and I just love my clients. But it's because I mean,
okay, I think
I get the clients I want to, but
go on. Are you frozen for a moment there? So I wasn't sure if we were having more technical issues.
Okay, no. I think it's going well. But what I'm trying to say is basically, when I had no experience, I had a lot of bad clients, and the more experience I got, the better it gets. And today, I'm touching wood, but I got a lot of great clients, and I'm really excited to have meetings with them. Actually, I had one meeting today, and it was really cool. It was really fun. It was stress free, and that's what I wish to everyone. But if I have to talk about bad experiences, the first one that comes to mind is a couple of years ago. You know, I am divorced, so I have two daughters. And a couple of years ago at Christmas time, I had one of my main client. Basically, it was my main client. It was my bread and butter, and they came to me during the holidays at Christmas, and they told me, listen, we have a big problem. The investors want a new website by the 4th of January. So could you please create a new website? So basically, I had like 2 weeks to create a new website. And what I did is I really felt for them. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And bear in mind, I have my daughters for the holidays 1 year out of two. So every other year, I don't have my daughters, basically. So this year I had my daughters, and I decided to work on that project. And I worked day and night for 2 weeks to create a full e-commerce website, completely customized. So it's it would be a really expensive website, basically. And I worked really, really, really hard. And now if I need to make an assessment 2 years later, that company, they went bankrupt because they had a really bad internal company policy. And the time I skipped with my family 2 years ago, I would never get it back. And I would never get that time back with my daughters. And the company went bankrupt. And one of the associate, because the other one is a really good person, is actually your friend, but the other associate is someone that has very sketchy morals, to say the least. So if I try to get some experience out of that, it's really I wasted some time during those holidays. My daughters will never be 10 years old again, and the other one 13 years old again. That would never happen. And I wasted a lot of time trying to make the best for my clients. But at the end of the day, they were not correct and the company went bankrupt. So one thing I really want to share is, of course, you need to love your clients and do the best you can, because good clients are really a blessing. But unfortunately, sometimes bad clients happen. You need to know how to recognize when you have a bad client, and you always need to put things into perspective, because nothing is going to replace what you have in life. So if I think about that time, I'm kind of sad that I skipped that time with my kids. But to cut a long story short, this year I had my kids again, and I spent a really good time with it. So I really learned, and I think that's one of the key here. I really learned how to do good work for my clients, but also bear in mind the priorities. And I think most of clients will understand that because they have families too, and they know how to put priorities when they should put priorities. But it's really important for you as a freelancer or as a, I don't know, a small agency, to know what the priorities are. So of course you should take care of your clients, but also bear in mind that if you're going to spend the whole of your holidays just working for someone that may never give back to you, I mean, it's a subject for debate.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point you bring up there, is that you have to get that balance right. I mean, if you get clients, not all clients are bad clients, but some clients can be have bad manners, as it were, should we say. They expect things
Yeah.
from you that they wouldn't necessarily expect from someone else. And I think it's our job to set boundaries and make sure that the clients stick to those boundaries. That's part of our responsibility. And you can, without setting those boundaries or without addressing those things when they start to rear their ugly head, you can end up, like you say, in a situation where you're doubling down to do everything you possibly can for them. You're not getting the thanks that you realistically should. You're not getting the understanding that, hang on, I've got a life as well. You've got a short deadline, but I've got a life. And to expect someone to drop everything for that, it's unrealistic. But like I say, I do think a big part of that is how we then address it and rebalance that relationship between ourselves and the clients. And it's a difficult one to deal with for sure.
Yeah. I'm wondering in the audience, how many of you guys and girls are really happy when you have a meeting with the clients? Because that's what's happening to me right now. So today I had a meeting with one of my main clients, and I was excited because it's always fun, because I got to a point where I got enough experience to know which people I want to work with and which people I don't want to work with. But at core, I'm a diplomat. My father used to be a diplomat, so I'm a diplomat. So I would never say to a client, I don't want to work with you. I'm not like that. But sometimes I would redirect to a company that, is more in line with what they're looking for. But the clients I work with, I really want to be excited when I work with them. And that's what happened today. My main client, we have a big campaign going on. Sorry, last Monday we have the momentum next Monday, and it's a really stressful moment, but we had so much fun today. We were on WhatsApp, we have a group, and we was really laughing about it, about the whole campaign and stuff. And that is gold, because I have no stress whatsoever. And to be honest, that's what I wish to all of you. Because when you reach that point, there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be stress. Let's face it. But if you can diminish the stress from a big campaign from your main client, there's something that you're doing good. And that's what I wish to all of you. And that comes with experience. And that's why me and Paul, we really want to share this with you. It doesn't cost you anything. It's a free advice. But to be honest, I know you're all trying to grind and get your business going on. But at one point, the best business is when you respect your customer and your customer respects you.
Yeah, and like I say, I think that can happen a lot easier when you set boundaries. I think
Yeah.
when you're new to freelancing, you're new to business. We all grab every opportunity that comes along, and we don't necessarily look for those red flag situations where this client, I don't think they're going to be right because we're just, like you say, excited to get that new client, excited to get that new prospective client, thinking of the money, thinking of the job, thinking of all the things that go with it,
Hmm.
and really kind of ignoring the negative things to do with how the project might pan out based upon some of those red flag things that you see to start off with. And
Yeah.
like Deirdre says, I think, and this is a very good point, some clients actually think they own you. And that's very true. Some clients do think that because they paid you some money, that you now are beholden to them to do everything they say, to be their beck and call. I mean, luckily enough, I don't really and never really have had that many clients. Maybe that's down to the way that the relationship was managed from the starting point or something else. But when they do come along, they can be a real drain on your positivity, on your energy, on your excitement. But like you say, when you get a good client and you get that good relationship, when the phone rings and you pick it up and you have a chat to them, and it can be a chat, it doesn't have to be about money, it doesn't have to be about work. It can just be they're calling you up to run an idea past you because they trust what you will tell them. Those kind of clients are the ones that you want to nurture, you want to grow, um, and look for the red flags. And like you say, you don't necessarily have to say to a client, thanks, but, or potential client, thanks, but no thanks. There's other ways of doing it. You can say, unfortunately, I'm fully booked up for the next 3 to 6 months. If you're happy to wait, then by all means, we can take a look at the work on the project. And most people have a shorter deadline than that. There's various creative ways in which you can deal with it. But don't ever feel like you have to put up with some of the crap that some people can give you and expect you to take it. Because at the end of the day, you might be doing a job for someone, you might be being paid for, by someone, but they don't own you. You are basically, you wouldn't go to them and say, I bought product X from you, and now I expect your company to maintain that product X for the next 25 years. It's not realistic. And they would probably tell you, sorry, it doesn't work that way. So confidence kind of comes as part
Exactly.
of the whole package when it comes to becoming a freelancer. And these are things that you develop and they'll grow over time as you become more confident, as you deal with more situations, and you do have more problem clients and the red flags that kind of come with those kinds of things. So yeah, it is a difficult one. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a little look now at some of the comments, some of the experiences that other people have had, and give our two pence
Sure.
worth on those kinds of things. So let's have a little look. I'm going to go back up
Sure.
because I saw Deirdre posted one earlier on. So we've got had a client who wanted everything done yesterday and didn't want to pay for it. I'm sure, Kay, you've had a very similar experience. You've got clients that they want the work done and they are not particularly quick to pay for it, or when you give them a price on it, they look as if you've just, sort of chopped their leg off or something.
Yeah, I have a good example. I had one guy, he came into my office and he was like, yeah, he's hanging out with millionaires. And he was telling me how he was hanging out with millionaires in Thailand and he got so much money and he got a big business. And then we talk about his project for the website and I announced the the pricing and then he goes all red like it was gonna collapse or something. So at this point he had no credibility for me. He had no credibility whatsoever, and he told me, well, I have a business, but you can't charge too much because I'm in charge. That kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, at this point he's wasting my time and he really looks like he's got no credibility. Now I'm always polite with people, but honestly, when I have some red flags, actually I created a video about that, but I have a few sentences, red flags. When people tell me, yeah, I've done your job, I've built a thousand websites and I know how to do it. At this point in my head, it's already over. So the only thing I'm trying to do is to end the appointment at this stage, but really politely,
Mm.
I'm like that. This is my education. I'm trying to be polite, trying to be a diplomat, but at one point, I'm not gonna waste 2 hours if I know it's not gonna work out. And I think that's part of the job. If you want to be a freelancer, if you want to have your own business, or even if you're working for someone else, you need to know who you're going to spend time with. People who don't respect you, they may never respect you.
No.
Don't waste time with those people. Be polite. Sometimes I even refer to my competitors, say, go and check them because I think they're going to be a bit good fit for you. I'm never trying to insult people, but I've learned over time not to waste time on just trying to convince someone that doesn't want to work with you. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. And Moises has sort of quoted something I said a little while back, which is build relationships, not websites. The website is just a
Exactly.
byproduct of that working relationship. And if your relationship, in the same way, if you're with a partner and it was a bad relationship, one person was abusive to the other, verbally, whatever, you wouldn't
Mhm.
want to stay there. You would want to get out of it. And it should be
Sure.
no different in business. And if anything, you should want to get out
Exactly.
quicker in business because you're not tied to that person or company. So, forget about whatever it is you're building for that particular person, company, whatever. If the relationship is bad, it's not going to get better by continuing to work together. So sometimes you just have to just say, this is not working, cut your ties, and just end the relationship. I've done it myself a couple of times. It's not easy. You do beat yourself up about it, and
Mhm.
you do wonder, was there something that I did wrong? Blah blah blah. All the things you do in any kind of relationship, friends, partners, business, all those kinds of things. And I think what you
True.
need to just kind of keep in the back of your mind in any situation like this is that every time a situation like this arises in any part of life, but we'll focus on the business side of things, you can always take something positive away from it. Whether you've learned
Mhm.
something that you didn't know, if you've found a way to handle a situation, all those different things. There's always something you can take away from every bad situation, no matter what kind of situation it actually is. And to give you a kind of an example of a working kind of situation, which you knew straight away that it was going to be a bad thing, but through circumstances and through inexperience, you still take the job. When I had the company, I was a partner in a business. We were graphic design,
Mhm.
web design, those kinds of things. So part of what I did was company branding, so logo design, those kinds of things. And
Mhm.
had a potential client come in, wanted a logo to be designed, had the meeting, and already within the space of the 5 minutes of the meeting, you already knew that this person was just there to test you. Because one of the things we sort of say is like, there's a comment like, so how do I know that you're going to come up with a logo design that I like? And my answer was, not to be cocky about it, or it might have come across as being a bit cocky, was, well, I've worked with X number of people before, and so far, I've never had anybody reject the design. And I think the comeback was, well, there's always a first time. And let's just say that was a precursor to exactly what happened. I don't think anything that I could have done, no matter how tight the brief was, would have satisfied that individual. I think they just had set their mind on it that they were just not going to accept anything that I'd done, anything that I created for them. And it was just a relationship that very quickly, it was just, right, this is just not working. Have your money back. You crack on. And at the end of the day, it was one of those things that she'd used something like, I don't know, like Word, what's it called? Word art or something, a simple font, done it herself. And she brought that in and said, like, oh, this is something I put together. And that's what they went away and used after the relationship kind of broke down. So you kind of, looking back, you know,
Mhm.
now I would say, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not the right person to work with you. Maybe you need to look at something else and push that potential client back out the door. Like you say, looking at the
Yeah.
watch and thinking, I really don't have time for this. I got things I could be doing to make money. But yeah, we live and learn, and we have to take something away from every situation, no matter how good or bad that situation actually is.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to work with big brands like McDonald's, BNP Paribas Bank. Porsche, Kia, Alfa Romeo, those kind of brands. A lot of brands. I had a chance when I was working for an agency, and I'm not gonna name any brand, but one one of those brands was just a nightmare. Honestly, they treat you like you're nothing.
Mm.
And at one point, you need to know your worth. If you know you really got worth, and you can really help the brand and the company, then you may want to use your energy to use it for a brand that really wants to work with you. And that's my key point. So nowadays, I mostly work with people who want to work with me. So basically, the initial meeting we have, I really want to find out if I can bring something to them, and if they can bring something to me in return. And if I feel that I cannot bring anything, I'll be honest. I said, listen, you're doing everything right. I don't think I can bring anything. But on the other hand, if I know I can bring something, I really want to go all in. And I think that's really important when you trying to get your portfolio started. It's interesting to have big brand names because it's going to give you credibility. But past that stage, you really need to focus on what's going to bring you something more than just money. Of course, money is important, but you cannot just focus on trying to get money, because if you do that, then you're going to do things that you don't like and you're going to feel miserable. That's the reality. That's the
Absolutely,
reality.
absolutely. Yeah. That's a very good way of looking at it. Money's useful. Money's something we all need. But I think when I put the video together probably about a year ago now, saying that I'd lost a client and I was happy about it, the
Yeah.
kind of the underlying message there was that it doesn't matter how much money a client will potentially make you, if they cause you stress and heartache and frustration and anxiety, they're not worth the money. They really are not worth the money. Your health, your mental health, your physical health is kind of manifested from your mental health. When that starts to be affected by a client, that's not a good situation to be in. You wouldn't stay friends with someone that was mentally draining you and was, whatever. And I think that that has to sort of go over to a client relationship. If there's not mutual respect, it's already on a bad footing. It's already, the foundations are just not there to make it a viable relationship long term, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And for some of you guys and girls that are just starting out, some of the key phrases that, to me are red flags are when people get into my office and they said, well, I can do your work. I've done many websites, but I just don't have time. For me, that's a red flag. At this stage, most of the time, I'm already gone. I'm already elsewhere, but I'm just trying to end the meeting politely. And it's really important for you to have a few key phrases that when it happens. Okay, sometimes it might be the exception, and maybe they just misphrase what they were trying to say. But most of the time, if it looks like a duck, if it sounds like a duck, it's a duck. you know so I think it's really important to be confident with yourself. And I know that's one of the main problems. Most of the people have imposter syndrome. I had the imposter syndrome. But be confident. Past one stage, you will know that you have what it takes to build a quality website and to really help your clients. And basically, it's just all about respect. I respect my client. I have the utmost respect for my clients because they're building their business, they know what they're doing, and I really like the fact that I can help them. I can bring a blog to help them. And I think it's the same thing for Paul. When I see all the tutorials that Paul is creating when it comes to dynamic websites, I mean, there's so much value in there. And when you come across a client that realizes that, they're really, really thankful. And I think that's what you need to look for. And of course, when you're getting started, you just want to get your portfolio, you want to get your first client. So that's a different story. But what me and I think Paul also want to really focus on is the fact that you need to know your self-worth. You're going to build it, you're going to get experience like everybody else, but then you really need to focus on the client that really want to work with you.
Yeah, totally. You do need to know your worth. And I think when it comes to building your portfolio, I think there's always been a bit of a misconception, and I think probably more so now than ever, that a portfolio is only worth being in existence if it's client work, if it's paid work. But the reality is, when someone comes to take a look at the work that you've created, I know for me, if I was looking at something, I wouldn't care if the work was created for a client or just as a practice project, just to show their skills, just to sort of like flex a little bit of what they can do. Because what you're looking for is not necessarily someone that has great client skills. You want someone that has great design skills, great sort of coding skills, great web design skills, whatever it is that you're looking to have sort of put together. I think that's more important when it comes to portfolios than it actually being paid for by someone. That will come. That's something that you can build upon as you grow more experience. But to start off with, portfolios, don't undersell yourself, don't undervalue yourself. If you are skilled, and there's so many ways to learn and develop skills beyond sort of just like, web design tutorials like myself and Kay sort of put together. There's lots of skills. Just look at places like Dribble, for example. Most things on there are not being put out for a particular client. They're being put out to show the kinds of work that these designers can create. And some of the design work is absolutely phenomenal. And knowing that that's their work, I'd have no hesitation hiring someone to do that kind of work for me, seeing the caliber of the work they've created, regardless of whether a client's paid them to create it or not. Because to look at it in a slightly different way, 9 times out of 10 for me, well, I say no, let's not 9 times. Let's just say 70% of the time, the end result that I've created for a client with the client interaction isn't something I want to put in my portfolio. Because when you create something as a designer, you create it to look and function the best it possibly can. When a client gets involved, they can actually derail that and take you in a direction that's different to what you would do. And ultimately, the end result, in your eyes as a designer, is subpar to what you want to do. Forget the codes, forget the functionality, the physical looking of the site, the logo, the branding, whatever it is. A lot of the time, that doesn't meet your standards. That's because you're satisfying the client, even though you might want to try to educate them, you're satisfying the client's requirements, needs, and vision, which isn't necessarily in line with your vision. So like I say, for me, the end result doesn't matter whether it's been paid for or whether it's been something that's completely put together from the designer's mind. Now, speaking of amazing tools, this is a really bad segue. I do have to thank tonight's sponsor before we go any further. So with that really loose and shoddy sort of segue, I'm going to say a quick thank you to our sponsor. So today's sponsor is Crocoblock, and I'm sure if you are a follower of the channel or anything that I put together, you know full well that I do a lot of work with Crocoblock, both for a sponsored content side of things where I work with them to create content on their own channel, and also the content that I create on the WP Touch channel. So if you're looking to have an amazing amount of control over what you can do with Elementor, and now a lot more control over Gutenberg, take a look at crocoblock.com to check out some of the things they can do. Okay, so that's that side of things all done and dusted. So thank you very much, as always, for the continued support from Crocoblock. Let's just carry on now. So let's take a look at some of the comments that we've had.
Hold on, just a quick word, because for those of you who don't know me, I talk about Crocoblock a lot also on my channel. And obviously here I'm just a guest, but honestly, I just really recommend to anyone to just get Crocoblock with Elementor Pro if you're going to use Elementor Pro, because there's so much value in this tool. And I remember when I had the first pricing, I told everyone, this is a steal. You should get that pricing because it's great. And then they move on to another pricing, and even now I still think is a steal if you're a professional. So honestly, it really helps me in my day-to-day work. And I talked about it to Paul when we just talk. We're doing WhatsApp calls. There's no affiliate links. It's just me and him. And I told him that it's really helping me. So I recommend it to my friend. And not later than yesterday, one of my friends called me because he also got a freelancing business. And I really think that one good combo, if you're going to use Elementor, I know some people are going to use Oxygen and Thrive Themes, and it's fine. It's great as long as you love the tools and you know the tools you're using. But if you're going to use Elementor Pro, I think Crocoblock is the ideal complement. So I just wanted to say this.
And he's already been sponsored, so that's always good. But just to sort of talk about Crocoblock quickly before we go back on the topic. It's worth to know as well that now Jet Engine, Jet Smart Filters, and Jet Search as well as Jet Style, whatever it's called. I can never get that. Jet something styling, whatever it is. All work with Gutenberg. So if you don't want to rely upon Elementor, and as Strata says, you don't need Elementor Pro to do a lot of these things. So my bad if I mentioned Elementor Pro. You don't need to. So there's a lot more functionality coming with Gutenberg and a lot of the Crockablock products. And they're also talking about how things are put together. So I want to quickly just say that I was reading a comment from Andre, who's I think he's the CEO of Crockablock, and he was saying that the way that the Crockablock suite has been coded is 80% independent, which means that they should be able to port that over to other platforms. So I'm really hoping that we'll see better support for Oxygen, for Gutenberg, as well as Elementor, and other page builders if you want. Brizzy, I mean, that would be another one I'd like to see it for. So all being well, we will see more widespread support. But I'm just great to see that there's more support going into Gutenberg for a start. As much as I don't like Gutenberg, I do think there's a lot of reasons to want to use dynamic content inside there. And speaking of that, we're going to go on to point number 2 of tonight's live stream, which, again, now that was a smooth segue. Gutenberg, dynamic blocks with generate press and stackable. So, if you've back up. If you've taken a look at the WP Crew Facebook group yesterday, I think it was, I posted about Generate Press, their beta release of version 2. And one of the things that's in there that kind of got me a little bit excited is they're going to be supporting dynamic content. And also, if you use Stackable, the pro version, you can't get this with the free version, that's already working and linking up with Toolkit. Is it Toolkit? I can never get it right. I always say Toolkit. Toolkit anyway. So if you want dynamic content inside Gutenberg, we're now starting to see more block companies releasing support for those dynamic tools. So I know for me, I'm really excited about this because as much as I love what Elementor Pro and Elementor and Crockablock bring to the table, it's still nice to have other alternatives where you don't need that amount of power as well as that amount of extra code to do something that could be fairly simple and straightforward. So for me, I'm all about options. I like to see as many options as possible. So I'm really excited to see that these things are coming to more platforms. And hopefully over the next year, it's going to be really exciting to see how we can really start to get more dynamic content up with these other tools that are not so reliant upon just Elementor Pro. Toolset, thank you very much, Michael. I always get it wrong. But yeah, Toolset. I picked up a license for that the other day, specifically because Stackable is supporting it straight out of the box, and Stackable is really nice to work with if you want a cut down version of a page builder inside the Gutenberg editor. So, okay, I don't know if you've used Gutenberg much with these kind of block packs, like sort of Stackable, like Generate Blocks, those kinds of things. I mean, do you use that, or are you still solely an Elementor kind of guy these days?
Well, I'm going to give an answer in separate, two separate answers actually. So first of all, I'm really excited about all the options, like you said, and especially when I watch your videos, because I watch your videos, and I really like the fact that we have more options, because at the end of the day, it's us consumers that get the benefit from all these options. Now, I'm also a fierce defender of working with one ecosystem, and I'm not saying one ecosystem is better than another. But if you're running a business, you don't want to start learning a new theme builder every other day. You need to focus. I think, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I like to focus on one, but then I never mind changing. So just to cut a long story short, when I started with theme page builders, I was working with Divi, and I had a really great time with Divi. And I would never say anything bad about Divi because it was so great. It was really great. But at one stage, I had a project, and Divi could not cut it at this point. Today, it could, but it took them time to just move over from page builder to theme builder. So I moved over to Elementor in Elementor Pro, and I really loved it. And then what I did is I used a combo Elementor Pro with Astra theme, and I know it by heart. I know where every setting is. So for me, it's way faster to build a project on Astra and Elementor Pro, and I like the company, also the philosophy they have. But like I said, I think Divi is great also. I think the key is to just master a tool. And then when you feel limited, if you really feel limited, long enough so that you can't not work, then it's time to look for something else. Unfortunately, that's the rule of the business. It's just like, if you're into the camera business here on YouTube, there are a lot of content creators that create videos about cameras, and all cameras are great. Today you can shoot 4K like we're doing here on the stream. There are a lot of tools, but there are some videos you can watch on YouTube, professional versus beginner. So you give the best spec'd out camera to a beginner, and then you give an old camera to a professional, and most of the time the professional is gonna really cut it, and then the beginner is not gonna cut it. And that's the way it works. But I'm not really stuck to one company, one brand. What I want to do is to be able to serve my clients the best way. And I think if you're that philosophy, then you're always gonna win, and your clients are gonna win. If you know your tool better, it's like a Formula One pilot. If you know your car, if you know the engine, if you know all the little intricacies of basically the tool you have, then you're going to be best at it. But I agree with Paul, it's good to have options, because at the end of the day, we are the benefiters of competition.
Yep, absolutely. I'm kind of like in a position where I'm lucky enough to be able to test out lots of different plugins and themes and software and stuff like that.
Mm,
But from a professional point of view, at this point in time, I still work inside Elementor and Elementor Pro with client work. Not that I do that much
mhm,
client work these days anyway. I just don't have the time to do it. But when you kind of get to know the tools that you're using and you know them well enough, that just makes the whole process of specing a job, finding out if you're actually capable of creating the end result that the client's looking for, it makes it easier.
mhm.
When you don't know your tools that
Yeah.
well, when someone comes along and says, oh, I want a website that does this and is a little bit out of the ordinary, to what you're used to, this a little bit outside your wheelhouse maybe, you can kind of think, well, okay, I'll take on the job. And then you find, how do I do it? And that's not a good position to be in. When you know your tools well, you can apply them to any given situation, and you'll also know when you can't apply them. But when you're kind of just
Mhm,
dabbling with lots of different things, you can just get yourself into a position where you can make a complete and utter hash of things because you just don't know the tools well enough to know their limitations or your limitations of the tools. There's two
indeed.
kinds of sides to that side of things. So I would definitely agree with you. Learn the tools that you want to work with daily, but don't be afraid to experiment with other things outside of that to get more comfortable. Because we've talked about this
Exactly.
before. Divi was the de facto page builder for a while. Prior to that, it
Yeah.
was Visual Composer. Now,
Yeah.
currently, it's Elementor. Now, this
Yeah.
cycle is going to change. There's going to be something that's
Exactly.
going to come along that will rival Elementor Pro, and it'll push it to one side and people will move on. Now, at this point in time, Oxygen is picking up a lot more people because of some of the things that have happened with Elementor recently. Is that going to take
Yeah.
over from Elementor? Personally, I don't think so. Not right now. And I think it's a little too hardcore for some people, whereas Elementor is a lot more user friendly and user focused. So,
Mm,
this everything comes in cycles. Elementor's not going to be here forever. Same as Visual Composer. You've only got to look at when Visual Composer released a video showing a new feature. I looked at it, I think, about
mm.
3 days ago, and it came up on my feed. And within the first hour, there was 4 views. Elementor will post a
Mm.
video, and in the first hour, there's 2,000 views. It gives you a good understanding of where those two products lie right now. But that's not going to stay the same
Yeah.
forever. So I think we do need to be cognizant of the fact that things will change, and we need to keep up to date with some of the things that are going on while still focusing on our, sort of tried and tested toolkit when working with paying clients. I don't know, Kay, if you feel the same, if you would dabble with other things yourself, or whether you kind of focus solely on what you're using now.
No, I'm always open. I'm always open. What I'm looking for is for reliable partners. So basically, what I don't want to do is use some plugins that are going to disappear in 6 months. That's what I don't want to do because I've had this experience before. I remember I built a website for a hotel, and then after something like 12 months, the people who created the plugin, they just, I don't know, they had other interests in life. They completely cut the plugin. So the client came back to me and we couldn't update the plugin. So basically, it was really stuck because the whole website was based on this plugin. And that's why most of the time I don't like working with free plugins because I'm not sure what's going to happen with the support. Now, some companies, they have a freemium model where they have a premium product and a freemium product. And in this way, most of the time it works. But that's the first barrier. Basically, I really want to be sure that I can, it's going to be reliable. Basically, I can assure my clients that in 2 years time we can update the website and it's going to be fine. But then for the rest, i'm really hoping I'm really open because, like you said, it's an ever-changing landscape, and I don't know which company is going to be there in 2 or 3 years or in 5 years. What I want is reliable partners. you know if you think about standard companies, I don't know if you take Mercedes or BMW, you can think, okay, in 5 years' time, they will be here. So you can buy a car, you know that the car parts are going to be there. And in terms of software, sometimes we're really excited with new tools, but the thing is, after 6 months, 12 months, they're gone. So what do you do when the clients come and they want to update their website? I think it's really important to think about that. Now, we have big names in the industry. We have Elementor, we have Divi, we have Beaver Builder, we have Thrive Themes. Reliable sources, in my opinion. And then it really comes to your preference also. So what I did personally, I purchased a license for Elementor. I got my license for Divi. I got my license for Oxygen. I got my license for Beaver Builder. I paid it myself. I didn't get anything for free. I tried it, and I thought, okay, for these type of projects, I prefer that brand. For these type of projects, I prefer that brand. So really, it's up to you, but you need to make the choice yourself because we're not in your shoes. You may prefer Thrive over Divi over Elementor. You really need to try it and test it out. And like I often say, you must be willing to spend some money to make some money. The old free model, I mean, it was fine in 1999, but today you need to spend a little bit of money to test. And bear in mind that most of these tools, they have free trials. So you know you should really test it and find for yourself. And the best way, in my opinion, is to test on a real project.
Yeah,
Just to give you an example, I was so caught up with Divi. I didn't want to change. I really love Divi, and I still think it's a beautiful tool. But at one stage, I had one project where Divi didn't have the tools that I needed, so I had to move on to Elementor, and it was really an eye-opening experience. And maybe it's the same for you. Maybe moving to Oxygen or Thrive really open your eyes. So that's going to be different for everyone.
yeah. I mean, to go back to one of the points you made about things not being around forevermore. I mean, this was one of the things. I mean, going back probably 10 years ago now, I used to use a couple of different themes on Envato Elements because at the time, I mean, Page Builder, it was
Yeah.
basically Visual Composer, and that was it.
Theme
So
forest.
you'd look for you did even though you had themes like Generate Press and things like that. That wasn't kind of in my wheelhouse at the time. So I was using different themes on there, and you find a couple of different themes that you like and you stick with. Impreza was one that was quite good, but that ended up becoming bloated. But the problem that I found with things like that was that you buy a theme for a particular client project because it fit into
Hmm.
what they were trying to achieve. And then you'd build it. And like you say, a year would go by and they come back and go, can you change this? And we need to update that. And you go to take a
Hmm.
look if there's an update to the theme, and it was gone. It had been
Hmm.
taken off
Yeah.
by the author, and you no longer had access to download it. You no longer had access to support, so you couldn't update anything.
Hmm.
So you're then stuck in a position. Well,
Exactly.
what do I do? At some point, this is going to break. So there has been several client projects that I basically, without the client knowing anything about it, rebuilt their site at the time in Ocean WP because I got so used to using that I could literally put a site together in the space of half a day. So I take their
Hmm.
site, replicate it on a different domain, transfer all the content over, check everything worked out. So they would be, there might be some minor differences in there, but they would never notice. And then I would literally put their site back online solely because I didn't want to have to deal with the fallout that I knew would happen at some point when something
Mhm.
happened to that site and I
Yeah.
could no longer update it. And then I'd have to go back and do it. And the client would be peeved at me because their site wouldn't be working for maybe a couple of days. They might not have even seen it, those kinds of things
Yeah.
that we know can happen. So it was better for me to do that behind the scenes for a theme that was becoming, a bit more sort of all encompassing. I think we are spoilt these days with themes if you're using them, with themes like Bloxy now, but Ocean WP, Generate Press,
Mm.
Astra, they're well coded, well designed themes that are
Mm-hmm.
more generic. So they're great starting points when you want to use them with something like, Beaver Builder or sort of, I can't think of what I'm looking for, Brizzy or Element or those kinds of things. So it
Yeah.
really is a kind of golden time at this point in time when it comes to building websites. There are so many tools out there. The first time I used ACF, for example, there was no integrations with any themes. There were no plugins. It
Yeah.
was literally open up the template for your single PHP, your archive page, edit, inject the code you wanted into there, hope to God you didn't screw it up, and then try to get that all work in the back end and the front end and all those kinds of things. But these days, you can literally not have to touch a single line of code and you can create amazing websites with tools that don't cost crazy
Yeah.
amounts of money.
Yeah, I don't want to play the old G here, but for those of you who didn't know that time, we used to have to code everything by hand. Just think about it, and there was no responsive web design at this point. Yeah, we had to code everything by hand. Today is luxury. So honestly, when I see people using DV, Thrive, Beaver, Gutenberg, I mean, it's all the same. It's just a flavor. Do you want to ride a BMW on a Mercedes or a Lexus? It's all the flavor you want to ride. You need to test it for yourself, see what you like best. I mean, all those tools, they're all amazing. The big names, they're really amazing. You need to find what works for you. You need to find an ecosystem. What I'm trying to look for, if I'm trying to talk practically, as a business owner, I'm trying to reduce my costs. So if I can get some lifetime plans, then it's better. If I can't, then I need to see, okay, if I can I make some money back? The practical idea is that if you really know the tools you're using, you're gonna limit the time you spend learning new craft. If you know a theme, it could be Astra, it could be Bloxy, it could be Cadence, whatever. But if you know the theme you're working for, you don't have to spend 1 hour looking for options. It's going to take 5 minutes, you
Yeah.
know? And if you paid, I don't know, if you paid $70 per hour, then 5 minutes is money, instead of 1 hour. And that's how you need to think. So there's no shortcuts. You need to test the tools. Sometimes you need to spend some money. Like I said, there are some trials. Test it on a real project. That's my best advice. See what you prefer and then go all in. Know your tool, and you're going to be way better than people who come with just a shiny object, because there's a shiny object syndrome. And me and Paul know it in the YouTube industry. I mean, sometimes we talk about gear and we love gear and we buy the shiny objects, but at the end of the day, it's what you do with the tools. You know,
Yeah,
that's how it
exactly.
works.
It is. It is exactly that. I mean, to take that to a different thing where you're talking about tech and stuff like that. I mean,
Mm.
I've been a PC user for forever. When I moved away from like non PC computers right at the beginning, I'm talking way, way, way back. So I'm not even going to go there and sort of say how old I am. But I literally bought 3 Macs in the space of
Amen.
4
Amen,
months.
brother.
3 Macs in 4 months. And the
Yeah.
reason I bought the third one, which was like last week, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, you'll see the photos. The reason I did it is not because it's nice and shiny, although it is nice and shiny. It's because
Yeah.
when I do so much video editing now that for me
Yeah.
to edit a video on a Mac Mini, for Christ's sake, it's like 699 quid, or you can get it for just over £600.
Yeah.
I can edit a
So cheap.
video to a better standard on there quicker with all the different transitions and with all the different overlays and things than I can on a PC that cost me 1,500 quid to build. That's just the PC.
Exactly.
So it just reiterates the point in a different sort of medium, but it's still the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
if you can find tools that make you more productive,
Exactly.
you become more valuable inside your business, and you can therefore make more money per hour because you spend less
Mm.
time fighting the tools and more time using the tools. So I know it's a different
Amen.
analogy, but it's the same kind of thing. And at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to move over to a Q&A. So I'm going to press
Yeah.
my button now for the Q&A. So hopefully this will work and not break everything. I do like that little thing. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
nice.
first question, because it's been sort of pulled up, and I think it's a really good question from Brian. If page builders come and go, is something like Gutenberg the best option for a site that needs to last a long time? So, Kate, I'm going to let you answer your opinion on that to start off with, and then I'm going to give my opinion on it.
I think it's a good question, especially for me because I don't use Gutenberg yet because I think it's really promising and I think it's going to be great. But right now, when I need to build a website, I need to be sure I control everything on the website. So I think when you get into web design, you need to have that mentality that it's going to change all of the time. Ever since I started web design, it's not been 1 year when something hasn't changed. Every year something's going to change. So if you want to work in the web design and web development industry, you need to be ready to change all the time. Change the landscape. Be used to change. If tomorrow Gutenberg is the king and I need to adapt, I will adapt. Like I adapted to responsive web design, like I adapted to mobile design. I adapted to that. And same thing for Paul. So I think that it's not really a matter of is Gutenberg better. It's just do you have the mentality to adapt to whatever is going to come your way when it comes to web design? Because trust me, even after Gutenberg, something is going to come. Maybe we're going to have holographic websites in 5 years. We don't know, but I'm ready for that because I know it's going to change.
Yeah, I'm going to answer my sort of take on the whole Gutenberg thing now as well. I don't honestly think at this point in time, unless you're just creating a very simple blog, that Gutenberg is good enough on its own to be useful.
Mm,
I know they're sort of building the whole sort of like site building side of things, but to me, the core Gutenberg is still pretty weak. You do need to add things like Stackable, for example, or Cadence blocks or Generate blocks, and some other
mm,
plugins onto it to make it truly a usable platform at this point in time. Great for dealing with blog content where you want to have a little bit more control over that really simplistic layout and pairing it with a theme like blocks, Cadence, Astra, any of those kinds of things. But from a building an entire site that's a little bit more comprehensive, a little more complex, no, it just is not good enough right now. I still think it needs at least 2 years development as a single
mm,
platform to become a viable alternative to any of the page
mm,
builders out there right now, even the most basic free versions. So no, but I would say it is worth taking a little bit of time to learn it, to understand it, to
yep.
realize what the limitations are and what its strengths are. I mean, at this point in time, there are not that many strengths, but I think there are tools like Stackable, like Cadence Blocks, like those different plugins and things. And there's a lot of free plugins as well, which I've covered in a video as well, that make Gutenberg more like working with a page builder that we are used to. So global styling, global font styling, those kinds of things, global colors, better layout options,
Mm,
containers, multi-columns and things. So things you're used to. But you will still fight it a little bit because it's kind of like a hybrid between what you used to have with like Visual Composer, which everything was just done in a really rudimentary fashion where you didn't see how things were actually going to display properly, and something like a simple page builder, because you're still kind of beholden to the way it's going to display in the dashboard of
yeah.
WordPress, which isn't going to look the same as what it does on the front end of your site. So you're going to do a lot of back and forth, checking your design to make sure everything looks the way you want it to. So it takes more time to do things you could do really quickly in a page builder like Elementor, Brizzy, Divi, those kinds of things. So that's kind of my take right now.
Yeah, and if I can add to it, it's once you use theme builders, whatever brand you're going to use, you're going to get used to having everything you want to have. So basically, when I use a theme builder, I know I can change everything on the website, any part. And what I don't want to go to now is being limited. I have a fixed layout. I can just change a few things. It's really awkward once you've passed that stage and you know you can build anything you want, and that's what you get with team builders. So I think that if Gutenberg want to reach a stage where they can really compete with the team builders, they would have to offer that flexibility. And nowadays we're in the age of mobile web design, because 70 to 80% of people watch websites on mobiles. And in my opinion, Gutenberg is not really ready for prime time when it comes to mobile web design. So I think it's a really important flaw, and I'm sure it's going to be addressed, maybe in a short time. But at today, while we're recording the stream, I think it's not ready for prime time when it comes to mobile web design.
No, I think there's still a lot of limitations. I think there was a comment just now, so it's still at this toddler stage, which is kind of true.
Mhm.
But I think the problem with Gutenberg is it's really, really slow to develop. I mean, I
Yeah,
commented on Brizzy not being the fastest to roll out new features, but I mean
yeah,
Gutenberg, what are we, over 2 years into its life cycle? Probably closer to three now. And let's be
yeah,
honest about it, it's you don't still don't have styling for lots of different options. You don't have any kind of global styling options. You're still having to
yeah,
work
indeed.
in a back end side of things where you can't even see the theme layout when you're making
Yeah.
changes to it. So these are all things that to me take it away from being a page builder and more of just a really simple block build. I know it's kind of built around blocks anyway, but this is why I kind of say when you're working with a blog post, it's easy because there's titles, there's quotes, there's images, there's bulleted lists, and there's
Mhm.
paragraphs and a couple of other things and galleries and stuff. So it's really simple because you think, well, this is the flow of the page, so that makes sense. I don't need the distractions of the theme. But when you try to design something, especially when they want to move it over to becoming an all encompassing whole sort of like theme replacement tool, they really need to up their game big time to make it even remotely viable to do these kinds of things, in my opinion. It's just
Mm.
too far back. And like I say, you're patching so many holes with third party tools. Like I keep saying like stackable and generate blocks and those kinds of things because they are good sort of tools to use. But then you kind of have to ask yourself that important question of, well, if I'm adding all these things to it, why don't I just
Mm.
use Elemental or Brizzy or Divi?
Yeah,
Because you're just literally putting 5 or 6 plugins in on top of the theme to get a remotely close to a design environment you can work with. Well, you may as well just use one of those other tools. This kind of where's the return on doing it this way? Is it really going to make that much of a difference when you add all those tools in?
yeah. And something that people need to bear in mind is the fact that um, we always think about different tools, but the clients, they don't really care. They want the website to work. They want return on investment. They couldn't care less whether you be using Divi or Elementor or Gutenberg. So it's always what's driving personally. That's always what's driving my decision. If I need to build a website, if I need to choose a set of tools, what can bring me to point A to point B, in the best way and give the best to my client. And it really helps because like I said, there's a shiny object syndrome, and it's really hard to fight it, especially if you're an AppSumo user like myself. um, there are a lot of tools, but you need to make a decision at one point if you want to start a business. And maybe you're watching this, you are a web designer, you work for a company, but maybe one day you want to turn into a freelancer and you're gonna have to make your own decisions. And it's really tough when there's so many choices. So, like I've been saying from the beginning of the stream, and we've been talking about it with Paul, it's important that you master your ecosystem, and then when you find a limitation, you move to another one. I think Gutenberg is really promising. I remember when it was first out, people hated it. There was so much hate. And now many people are embracing it. So I think it's like everything, when you start a new thing, when it changes, people hate it and then people embrace it. But like I said, to me as a business, it's not ready for prime time. I need to, especially for my business, I want to fully customize the website. So I want to be able to customize every part and I want it to work. And before Gutenberg can do that, to me, it's not even in the landscape, but I'm watching it. It's really interesting and it's really promising.
Yeah, I've gone from a hatred of Gutenberg, as I prefer to call it, to just a mild disgust of it now. I no longer hate it.
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah, I think there's potential, but I think the potential isn't coming from Gutenberg itself. It's coming from the plugins that are working alongside Gutenberg to make it truly a usable thing. On its own,
Hmm.
to me, it's still pretty rubbish. It's just not.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they even bothered, if I'm brutally honest about it. I know there's all this talk of they had to compete with the likes of Wix and Squarespace and so on. Well, why didn't
Mm.
they just dedicate a team to develop the supported
Yeah.
platform, the WordPress.com platform, and build that there? If people
Exactly.
want all those features, let them have a let them have a hosted platform where they have full control over the entire architecture, like Webflow, like Wix, like
Hmm.
Squarespace, and
Yeah.
then let the people like us get on with using the tools that we're accustomed to, and not try to make us use a tool that just really isn't that good. It just isn't a particularly good piece of software.
Yeah, actually, I was surprised that they did not try to buy one of the big names in the industry. I really thought that was going to happen because they have kind of a monopoly. Let's face it, nowadays, okay, there's Webflow, there's Wix, Squarespace, but the market share of WordPress is just amazing. Just imagine you're in the market and one website out of three, it's your brand. I mean, you can do pretty much anything you want. You could get any loan you want from any bank. And I
Yeah.
was really surprised they didn't try to buy one of the big names because let's face it, some of the big names did better than WordPress itself,
Oh yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not bad. I mean, it can happen to all of us. You start with something and then someone comes with something better, but then you need to be smart enough to know what to integrate, what not to integrate. So I was really surprised. But I think it's going in the in a good direction because they kind of understood that why are page and theme builders so popular? There must be something to it, and they're trying to move in the right direction.
Yeah, I've said it before in live streams. I've said it in different comments and things. I don't understand why they just didn't get someone on board or a company on board, or like you say, buy out someone else and just
Mm,
integrate that into the core of WordPress.
yeah,
Even if they'd done something like that. I mean, if you wanted to sort of take a look at rivaling the likes of Wix and Squarespace and things like that, surely a product like Brizzy would have been pretty much perfect for it, because
yeah,
it is fairly user focused, which is different to
mm,
what you've got with Elementor is very much a traditional page builder. It's not really that
yeah,
different to what's come before it. Like Visual Composer and Beaver Builder and so on.
mm,
It's the all the icons of the widgets, drag and drop kind of thing. Whereas Brizzy took a
mm,
different approach. They made the sort of like
mm-hmm,
the link between the on-page editing just a little bit more intuitive and less daunting and in your face. So to me, I would have thought that
yeah,
something like that would have been a better way of going about it and work with people that have a tried and tested track record. That's a lot of T's to just make something that would have been so much better than what it really is these days. It's like I struggle to see the point in it, and I think you can see it just by the ratings on the sort of like the WordPress repository what people really
yeah,
do think of it, and they're still hammering away at it day in day out. It's like we're gonna get this square peg in that round hole whether you like it or not. It's just like I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. I honestly to this day I don't understand it. I think it has to do with corporate mentality. If you
Mm.
work in a big company before, you know that there's a lot of politics, inside a company, and sometimes you have some weird decisions happening and you don't know why. It's just a battle of, people with influence within the company. So honestly, I have no inside news or anything, but it's really weird to me when I compare it to other industries. Try to think of any other industry, like, I don't know, tech or cars or whatever, when one company has kind of a monopoly, and if they don't take that advantage, I mean, they're gonna die at one point. So I don't wish that WordPress. I wish WordPress a long life, but they need to take into consideration that if people are purchasing licenses for theme builders, it's because there is a need. That's the market. That's the market reality. That's how it works. I remember a long time ago, for the oldest of you guys and girls, there were the CDs and then the mini disc. Mini disc was great. It was really small. It was great, but the whole industry was directed towards CDs, and that's why we had Discmans. Today it's laughable because we only have MP3. It's all digital. But at that time, but I was the only one. I knew nobody else with a mini disc, but it was so tiny. It was great, but the market decided. So I think as a company, you need to really look at the market, and you need to look at the reality. So either you're gonna thrive or you're just gonna go away. Did any of you heard of Kodak? Kodak was a big name in the photo industry, and then they were just gone. Like Nokia for the mobiles.
Yeah.
Nokia was so amazing, and today, I mean, some of you don't know what Nokia is. I mean, that's a reality. So WordPress has to be humble enough to know that if they don't move with the flow, they just might go like just any other company in the world.
Well, the thing is, I think WordPress need to potentially realize they're not Apple. I mean, Apple are one of those companies that are in a very enviable position where they get rid of things that we take for granted. Ports on phones, headphone jack
Mm,
ports, and things like that.
yeah,
And that changes the industry. The industry
true.
adapts to what Apple have kind of dictated. You
Yeah.
know, there are not many companies that are in the tech industry then that have that kind of relationship and that kind of power to change the industry. And I think WordPress is not one of those companies. So they,
Mm,
they do need to sort of understand that, you know, they might think a decision is the right decision, but when the market rejects it, which is what a lot of the market's done with Gutenberg up until recently,
yeah.
that maybe they're doing something wrong. Maybe it isn't the right thing to go about doing this kind of thing. So yeah, it is a difficult one. I mean, personally, for me, I just think they could have spent their time and their money in so many other better places. The media management, the dashboard, just various different things that could have been given some actual attention, but everything has kind
Mm.
of been primarily focused on Gutenberg at the expense of what people really want. And that is ultimately what it is like what people really want.
Yeah, and let me ask a question to the audience. How many of you are excited when there's a new iOS release, or a new macOS release? People talk about it. There are YouTube videos, and people just watch videos. But how many of you are excited when there's a new WordPress release? You know,
No, I think
and
fear. When there's a new WordPress version, it's fear because people are thinking, "Oh crap! How many of my client
exactly,
sites are going to crash?"
exactly, and that's my point. If WordPress had a philosophy, I'm not talking about the whole marketing philosophy. I'm just talking about, you should be excited when there's a new WordPress version out. I mean, it's exciting. Some of the software we use for live streaming, like Ecamm Live, I mean, it's exciting. I watch the streams. They last for like 1 hour, and they talk about the new features, and I'm so excited. But when WordPress comes out, like Paul said, I'm like, man, I'm gonna to do some maintenance. What's gonna happen? Is it gonna work? And I mean, there's a problem there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's the same with Elementor. Not to sort of rag on them for any reason,
Yeah.
but when a new version comes out, you've only got to look on the Facebook groups and you see people. Should I update? Has anybody updated? What problems have you had? How did you get around it? And you always get the same answers. The sort of like stage insight and all those kinds of things. But it
Mhm.
is. I think this is indicative of these kinds of tools. Is that there is an underlying knowledge that there's a good chance things are going to break, and they could be critical breaks. And it's just like, that's just, no, no, can't deal with that. That's too much stress. And great if there's only, 2 sites. But when you've got 100 sites for clients, that is a massive amount of stress when that comes out.
Yeah.
Just not good. Not good at all. Thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah,
And
and we
sorry,
sorry.
I just want to say thank you. Brian said, "Thank you so much, Kay and Paul, for your in-depth answer to my question. So appreciated. Thank you. My pleasure, and thank you very much for giving such a good question."
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just want to give a shout out to some of the comments because someone from Mexico in the comments. So that's really great.
Oh,
I mean, Reunion
we've got
Island.
people from all over the world.
Sorry.
I said we've got people from all over the world in tonight, which is awesome.
Yeah,
And
exactly. That's really
I just
exciting.
wanted to say that Deirdre, she was Kodak South Africa's designer for 10 years, and it was a great 10 years. So she actually used to work for Kodak. So that's pretty cool to know. So
Okay.
you can remember all the Kodak things. And yeah, it was crazy because Kodak, I mean, was massive. I think with the Instamatic cameras, the instant, sort of, that was a massive thing, as well as the sort of roll film for, SLRs and things. But
Yeah.
it's crazy to see how digital basically wiped out Kodak, pretty much completely.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to talk about because things actually move all the time. So I can see we got Sandor Skippers from the Netherlands. We got Bruno Pirot from Bulgaria. It's really exciting to have all of you guys and girls here in the comments. So once again, I'm really thankful for meeting Paul's audience.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I think we're going to take a couple more questions, and I think we'll wrap it up. We've kind of run over a little bit, but I think a big part of that was the technical issues that we experienced tonight. So, if you've got any questions with regards to what we've been talking about tonight, Gutenberg, dynamic content with regards to Gutenberg, or dealing with dodgy clients, then please do pop those in the comment section into the chat so we can take a little look at those, and we'll try our best to answer them. Now, please do bear in mind that when you're asking questions, there's only so much we can actually answer. There's only certain kinds of questions. Some things are pretty technical by their very nature, which means it's quite difficult to give a full and detailed answer with regards to that side of things. So I'm going to do Bruno first of all. What do you think of new builders like Zion and Bricks? I mean, have you tried or heard of either of those, Kay?
I'll be totally honest, I haven't heard of those.
I'm pretty sure I took a look at Zion a little while back. But I've taken a look at some different page builders, and I think there are some interesting ones out there. I don't think there's anything that's really breaking the mold. I think there's a lot of things that are being done that are very safe and in the same line as things we already know. The icons with the widgets down the left or the right hand side. You've really got to look at some things, and they are very reminiscent of tools you're already using. Is that a good or a bad thing? I think it's more of a safe bet. They're probably thinking that taking someone that's a user of, should we say, Elementor, and then taking it over to something that looks very similar and operates in a very similar fashion, that you're going to have that familiarity, that comfort, that ease of knowing how to get around things. But then the flip side of that is, what are you bringing to the table? What's your unique selling point over a tool that we're already using, we've been using for 3-4 years, we're familiar with, we know the quirks of it, we know what we can do. What exactly are they bringing to the table? Let me know what you think. I mean, that's kind of my thought with it.
Well, I think there are new tools every day. And like I said, it's really tempting to jump into new tools, but that's when you are just an enthusiast. When you run a business, you need to be able to actually monetize your investment. So if your tools make it to prime time and it's got a solid track record, and I know it's going to help me do better than what I currently have, then I won't hesitate. I mean, if it really helps the business, then okay. But there are so many tools coming up every day that you really need to have some kind of focus and maybe try it on a side project. But you really need tools that are going to last and tools for which you can get support. That's really, really important because if you need support for a client and there's no support, then your client's not going to be happy. You're going to lose business. They're going to talk to other people in your local area, and that's going to be bad. So I think it really matters to really carefully choose the tools, but also at the same time, you need to leave your mind open to look at the new alternatives. Now, honestly, those brands haven't made it to my inner circle. So I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying I haven't heard enough about it, and I watch a lot of news on the industry. So well, I can't find everything that's going around, but I haven't tried it. So I'm happy to try it. But like I said, I have one ecosystem, and when I feel the need to move to another ecosystem, then it's the time.
Good answer. Okay, so the next thing we've got to say is, let me just have a little look at this question. Here's a good one. Anthony T. Clients that want to edit their own sites but don't want to pay a retainer, how do you convince them they need this retainer for updates and support? First of all, I'll answer how I would generally tend to deal with that. I've kind of been of the mindset for the big part that I create content management systems. Before WordPress, I built my own kind of thing. So my clients have pretty much always gone onto some kind of CMS. And for me, the thought process behind it was more a case of I would rather them be able to maintain their site than me having to make all the changes to it, primarily because when you've got 5 clients, it's easy to make updates. When you've got 100 clients, you suddenly are in a position where you're probably not making as much money as building a new project, and you're supporting all those clients and adding new content and all those kinds of things. That being said, I probably would look at it a little differently these days because I think more people are getting more used to having maintenance plans, having retainers and things. And maybe that's one of those things that you could look at, and then you could cherry pick what you want to do. I mean, I don't think you should ever force a client onto any kind of retainer. I think you should just give them the benefits of why a retainer might be good value for them. And if they want to do it themselves and they don't know what they're doing, then you can think, well, okay, they're not going to buy a retainer. So I can charge them, if money is this sort of like influencing factor and you haven't factored this into the original proposal, I can train them, give them one-to-one training, or I can create dedicated training to show them how to do different things on the site, or generic training. I mean, there's lots of ways you could approach doing this, video, written, whatever you kind of want to do, and then let them get on with it. But make them aware of the fact that if they make a mess of things, that you will fix it, but there will be charges involved, and you charge them at the full rate, your full hourly rate kind of thing. So it incentivizes them to have some kind of retainer. And you can always sell them a simple care plan that doesn't involve updates, as in like updating content and designs and things, but it gives them a support mechanism that they can have in place in the background, like an insurance policy, that if something goes wrong, it's not going to cost them your $50 or $70 pounds an hour rate. It's going to be slightly less than that, because they paid for it in advance, as it were. There's lots of ways you could approach it. I don't think forcing a client into a maintenance or care plan is a good thing. Make the options available, give them alternatives, give them all the options they need, and just make them aware that if they don't take something like that out, if they need you in the future, which they invariably will at some point, there will be charges, and those charges are your hourly rate, billed however you want to do it. That's how I would generally approach it. But Kay, you might be completely different to what I'm sort of thinking there.
No, actually, I totally agree. Usually, what I tell my clients, I offer a training. It's a 2 hours training so that they can maintain their own website. But then I tell them, if you're just going to update some content, you don't need me. Honestly, it's going to be more expensive than if you do it yourself. But if you want me to change the structure, then you might want a professional. It could be me, it could be someone else. But one of my pride is to give full access to my clients. So if they want to work with someone else, they're completely free to go with someone else. But most of the time, they stick with me. And just for updating content, they can do it themselves. And oftentimes, I give that example that I have one of my viewers on YouTube. She's 69 years old. She followed one of my courses to create a one-page website, and now she's selling websites to seniors. So, if she can do it, most of my clients can do it. I'm really proud about that. And the truth is, if you use an easy enough system just to change the content, the clients, they love it. But then when they don't have the time or they want something more complex, then they reach out to me. What I've had last week, I had one client and I told her that before I released the website, I said, one thing you should not do is just click on update and update all plugins when there's a maintenance, because that's the best way to break your website. But then probably she forgot and she did it. So what happened is the website was completely broken. So I had to fix it. And then, yeah, like Paul said, it was my hourly rate. But because I told her so before we even released the final website, she knew what would happen and there was no problem with it. And then she said, okay, I'm ready to move to a maintenance plan. So sometimes it needs to happen. For some of the clients, they right away to take the maintenance plan. But then some clients, you need to bear in mind that some clients, they have the human resources inside. Maybe they have someone that has already built a website and they know how to do a maintenance, and you need to be ready for that. You need to accept that. But most of the clients, they are thankful, they need your help, as long as it's reasonable, and it makes sense, and the pricing is good for what they get. You're not going to have any problem, in my opinion.
But again, it kind of goes back what we were saying earlier on, which is building relationships, not building websites. When you build a
Exactly.
relationship and the client trusts you to know that you're not going to rip them off, then it makes the whole process easier. And like you say, when you're honest and open up front that there's going to be costs involved if they don't have a kind of care plan in any kind of way, then they've only got themselves to blame if they get themselves into a position like that. And to kind of continue that on, again, this is another one of Anthony T's questions. It's kind of continuation to what we've just been talking about. He said, what about theme or plugin updates? A lot of clients don't understand what that means, and if they neglect it, even after explaining to them, they don't care until something happens. What I do with that is there's an annual fee for minor updates. In other words, WordPress 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and so on. That they pay me every year, regardless. That's a
Mm.
fee that I charge them every single year. What it doesn't include are major revisions. So 6, 7, Elementor 3.0, WordPress 5.0, those kinds of things.
Mm.
Because they generally come with more chance of breaking things, which means that the whole process could be a lot more time consuming, and therefore I do not include that in there. If they have a care or maintenance plan, I'll include it in that side of things, but the sort of the update plan, shall we say, that's an annual thing, they build that regardless, and that just means that they're paying for me to do that in the background, so they don't have to worry about it. They don't really get much of a choice in the matter. And if they don't want to take it out, older clients, for example, if and when things go wrong, they then go on to the you pay me my hourly rate, and I will charge you my full hourly rate to fix the problems that you didn't want to deal with over the last year,
Mm.
18 months, 2 years, whatever you kind of want to do. So for me, that's kind of how I would do it. And again, Kay, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? How do you handle that kind of situation if it arises for you these days?
I think we have the same vision of things. But just before I answer, I just want to shout out to Steve Pro, who gave a super chat, and I think we kind of skipped that. So thank you for the stream. But yeah, I think it's really the relationship first, and I've talked about it in a few of my videos. See, some many of the people in my audience ask me, how can we get more clients? And they're all about just online, and I'm all digital. By the way, I call myself the digital alchemist. So what I'm going to say is going to be shocking to you, but I make most of my business with face-to-face networking. I'm in a business group. It's called BNI, and I'm in the BNI chapter, but I get most of my business from there. I live on an island, so I was, in terms of SEO, I was like first on Google for like 2 or 3 years, but most of the clients I got were really, I'm sorry to say, but really cheapos. They were looking for the cheapest websites, and to be honest, I wasted so much time. Whereas now I do face-to-face networking, business meetings. People, they don't really talk about the price. When I talk to them, they don't it's not that they don't care about the price, it's they know that good work takes money. So they would talk about other things, like how much time it's going to take and what would I get for my money, but not I want the cheapest price. So I often advise people to maybe look elsewhere. I'm not saying you should all go into face-to-face networking. I'm just saying when everybody's looking to one direction, and I'm not talking about Fiverr or something, but see what I'm trying to say. Maybe it's time to look into another direction where some other clients are, because some people, the truth is, some of my clients, they will never go on those websites because at first hand they don't know nothing about digital, so you know they don't have that reflex to go to Fiverr and those type of website and freelancer. They just call some friends and they say, do you know someone who can build websites?
Yep.
And if you're in the business circle, then they're going to refer to you, and all the barriers are really lowered. I don't know about you, Paul, but I get many inquiries per day on my email, people selling me um, SEO services, web design services. I
Yeah.
don't know them. I'm never going to do business with them. I
No.
just hit spam, and their email address is flagged as spam, and they're going to reach less people.
Yep.
So that's not a good idea. And I think it starts there. And when you build a relationship, like Paul said, and I've seen that over and over again. I have some clients, not only do they ask me for more business, they really asking me what can we do together, but then they bring me other clients.
Exactly. It is all about the relationships. I do agree with you there. It's like if you build a good relationship, that goes a long way. And forget about just the work that you do with that one particular client. They're going to tell other people that
Mm,
they want to work with you. And I think you sort of like hit the nail on the head there. Is when you get someone that's interested in working with you, and the first thing they say is, "How long will it take you to do what I need?" Not how
mm,
much would it cost me. That's a
mm,
good indicator that's a client you want to work with. That's the kind of client you want to get on board because they're not bothered about the price. They're bothered about getting the results in a timely manner, in a time that they need to get those results. And the price is just something that goes with it to get it. You can't say, well, I'm going to build you a 5-page website. It's going to cost you 25 grand. That's just taking the
yeah,
mick. But you know, and again, when you build a relationship, I mean, I've got a client that I'm just wrapping up a website for, and I've worked with this client for 15 years, and he'll phone me up. He say, "I got a new business venture." I mean, the guy's a millionaire, multi-millionaire. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
But a
mm,
more down to earth guy, you would just not, you would never meet. And he'll phone me up and he'll go, "Paul, I've been talking to my guys over in Dubai, and we've got a business idea kind of thing." And it's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Need a website for it. How quick can you do it
mm,
for me? This is what it's called. Can you get a domain for me?" And never
yeah,
does he ever ask me what's it going to cost. I don't think
yeah,
that's ever even
exactly.
part of the question. Forget about the fact he's a millionaire. He knows that
Mm,
he knows I'm not going to take the mick and rip him off. He knows
mm,
that I get the job done. He trusts me to know
yeah,
that I'll create something that he'll be proud to put his name and his business name to. So all those things are totally out of the equation, which makes that relationship so much easier because it's just when. That's the only question is when. How long, How long is it going to take to get
exactly.
this done? And that makes your life so much easier because then you just literally look at your diary and go, I've got a space there and I can do it then for you. Cool, book me in. And that's it. Job done.
Exactly. And that's something I really want to share. I mean, it's really in my heart when I see so many people struggling to get clients, and they're all in the same place trying to compete for the cheapest, the cheaper web design. And I don't think that's the way to go.
No.
I don't think that's the way to go. Some time ago, people said, yeah, websites are going to disappear because we have mobile apps. Now, tell me, if you're in the audience, how many apps do you use on your mobile phone? You know, and I love apps, but maybe I use 3 or 4 or 5 apps on my phone. And my guess is that for most of you, it's going to be the same thing. So, websites are here, they're here to stay. Maybe they're going to leave one day, but right now, they're still there. So the thing is, some clients, they ready to pay good money because they want good results. You know, did you ever get free gas at the station? I don't know about you, but that never happened to me. So free stuff is great, but the reality is, usually when it's free, is that you are the product. So it's always a balance. It's always a balance. Sometimes, one of my favorite plugins on WordPress is Duplicator. It's free. It's really great. But apart from that, I mean, they've been there for like 10 years or something. But most of the other free tools that I use, they're gone. They're gone. That's the reality. So yeah, it's the same thing. When your client works with you, they want to know that you'll be in business in 2 years' time. And guess what? If you don't get paid, you're not going to be in business. So it's not all about money, but it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense that you need to be able to invest in your own business. And I think it's really important because when you're gonna work with a client, if your only goal is just to make quick money off of them, it's gonna be a one shot. It's
Yep.
gonna be a one shot, and then you need to look for other clients all the time. But if your clients appreciate you, if they appreciate the time you're gonna spend and the knowledge you're gonna put, in their project, they're gonna help you. And I'm even going to go further. Even if you're just starting out and you're upfront, you say, "Listen, I'm just starting." And I remember like 9 years ago when I started freelancing, I had my first client, and guess what? He called me like I think it was 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Yeah, I remember I worked with you. It was so great. I'm gonna buy a new company. I want to work with you." I mean, that's really exciting because I mean it's been years, and he has a good impression on the work I made for him. And over those years, he brought me 4 or 5 clients. So that's where you want to get actually.
Yeah, well, you've got to think, how much is that client actually worth? It's not just the
Mm,
one job. It's the
true.
residual income from hosting, maintenance, care, those kinds of things.
Mm,
Word of mouth that they'll get you other clients coming back to you when they've got new projects. So that one client that could be worth say £2,000 or £3,000, dollars, whatever you are, wherever you are, for this one, if that goes well and you build that relationship and there's trust there, over the next 10
mm,
years, that 3,000 could be 30,000. Well, just think
yeah.
when you get 20 clients like that, then suddenly,
Mm,
your bank balance starts to look a lot healthier than it did by just constantly chasing that cheap $100 client, that $300 client, that $400 client, with the mindset of, oh, well, I get a residual income off them. You have to get a lot of clients in to get residual income and then keep those clients. And that's
yeah.
different to finding a good client. I'd rather have 10 clients that make me £3,000 a year than I would to have to
Mm,
go out and find 50 clients that'll make me £1,000. That's hard
yeah.
work because then it's constantly chasing, constantly spending money to find clients, to
Mm,
convert clients. The time it takes to do proposals, because you know yourself, proposals take a heck of a long time to do. There's research, there's writing, there's working out the quotes, there's looking at the tools you
mm,
might need to invest in to get that project to completion. There's a lot of moving parts before they even give you a single cent. Well, when you're chasing, constantly looking for new, and your turnover, your churn rate of finding clients is very, very high, that becomes very, very difficult to sustain that before you start to make any money back. And then you're
yeah.
constantly trying to make money while building sites, while chasing clients, while doing all the ancillary stuff to get them.
Yeah.
That's just too much like stress. That's like a hamster on a wheel
It's
just going round and
exhausting.
round.
Exactly. It's really exhausting. And if you allow me, Paul, I see one of the comments. We have Anthony T that says, "What about themes plugin updates? A lot of clients don't understand what that means, and if they neglect it, even after explaining it to them, they don't care until something happens." And my key here is that before it happens, you tell them what the consequences are. So usually, what I tell my clients when I release the website, I really insist on the fact that I offer a maintenance plan, and if they don't take it, then from the moment I release the administrator code to them, they're in charge. If something happens, they're gonna pay my hourly rate, like Paul said. And what I found out is that I never had once any issue. You know, people had issues, they came to me, and I mean, if the website had a virus, I told them I don't deal with viruses. So basically, what I would do is put the last backup that I had, and that's about it. Then I put my hourly rate. I never had anyone complain. The clients told me, "Yeah, you told me that. Yeah, it's true. It's my fault." So it's really important that before things happen, you're really upfront. You tell them the consequences. you're not trying to patronize them. You're just explaining, okay, this is the truth. This is the reality of website building today. If you don't update your website the right way, you might come across with a virus. You might, might have any kind of issues. And once I release the administrator codes, I don't know what you or your employees are going to do with it. So if you have any issues, you can call up on me or someone else, but then it's going to be my hourly rate. Never had any issue. People paying me, and most of the time after that, they take a maintenance plan.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's a big part of it is educating clients before they become clients,
Mm,
while they're clients. And that isn't to sort of, like you say, patronize anybody. It is a fact that you do need to educate people, because if you
yeah.
go and buy a car, and it's your first car, you've never owned a car in your life, and you go to buy a brand new car, do you expect that car to run forever? Do you
Mm,
know about servicing? Do you know about tax MOTs? In the UK, it might be different in other countries and things. But all the different things, the different costs that go with owning a car, when you go to a showroom, one of the things that you'd want that salesperson to tell you is these are the things you have to take into consideration owning a car. And it's no different to a
mm,
website. Not everybody's owned a website, so they don't know all
true.
these things that might have to go on. A lot of people are under the impression that you pay for a website. They say, like, you'll need hosting and domain registrations. What's hosting? What's
Mm,
that do? And it's like, then you got to
yeah.
explain to them what hosting is. But you don't look at them and go like, well, they're a bit dull. It's just, this is a world they're not used to. We are used to it. We deal with these terms day in, day out. So it's nothing new to us.
Yeah.
In the same way that a mechanic knows exactly what is involved in servicing a car. So when you drive it off the forecourt, they know all these different things. Well, unless someone tells you, you don't know. So it's no different. So you do need to educate people as part of your
Yeah.
sales process to what they need to understand by owning a website. It isn't just a case of pay your money now and that's it forevermore. There's ongoing costs. There's different things you have. There's lots of moving parts, and WordPress makes that even more complex, because it is something that you've got an open architecture. So there's plugins, there's themes, there's the WordPress
Mm,
core. All those things update and need updates. So unless you tell someone
yeah.
these things, how would they ever know? Do you know? So it's like, yeah, I do agree. Now we're going to take two more questions, because I'm conscious of the fact that we are literally coming up to the 2 hour mark. So, Athena, we're going to come to your question in a moment, but before we do, I'm going to answer MTL and e-commerce. Hello, Paul and Kay. You guys rock, and this is great to have you two come together to propose a live event. We're a huge business community in Montreal, and we would love to have you on board. So, what I would suggest is to MTL plus e-commerce, either reach out to myself and or Kay. Let us know what you're looking
Yeah.
for, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation, and we'll see what we can do from there. So, hook us up. Just
Yeah.
contact us. You can do that very easily. Just go to the WP Tuts website and just use the what's it called, collaborate form on there. And Kay, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, they can just go to casino.com, contact, and then they can just shoot an email from there.
There we go. Cool. So MTL plus e-commerce. If you want to reach out to us, please do so, and we'll speak to you soon. So Athena, we're going to use this as the last one for tonight. Athena, do you ever attach a charge for writing a proposal? So Kate, I'm going to let you answer this one first, and I'm going to come back with my answer on that as well.
Okay, so I've a different process now than from when I started. So now, first of all, I'm trying to assess the client. I'm trying to know, do they really are they really serious about the business? Because the reality is that some people come to my office, they ask me, and I, from the get go, with experience, I know that either they don't have the budget or they're just daydreaming at this stage. I'm not trying to insult anyone, but it's just experience. But then usually, what I do before I write a full length proposal, I would just announce some pricing, up and down. So sometimes someone's gonna come and say, oh, "Yeah, I want a 5 pages website," and I'm gonna say it's gonna go from that price to that price. If you are interested, let me know. I write a proposal, and usually from there you will understand if people are serious or not. And they say, "Well, I'm gonna think about it. I'll come back to you." Okay, maybe they don't have the budget yet. And once again, I'm not trying to insult everyone. Maybe they don't have the budget now. Maybe they have the budget in 6 months because it happens. but then I don't have to write a proposal. So what I'm trying to do is to really assess whether it's a serious project and whether it's they have the budget for the pricing that I have, because every profession is going to be different. So I found out that by doing that, they do not feel insulted, and if they come back to me and say, yeah, please send me the proposal, then at least I know that from the price range that I issued, they're interested. You know, there's no guarantee I'm going to get the business, but at least I know it's in their budget range, and from there I write a proposal.
Yeah, I'm probably a
But
little different.
sorry, just
Uh,
just to finish, I don't charge for the proposal itself. But one caveat is when I have a project where it's really complex, what I tell them is that if they want me to write a document where I outline every feature, then yeah, I'm going to charge for it. But then what I do is, if they decide at the end to do business with me, I'm going to withdraw the amount I charge for that complex project from the final project.
yeah, that's a good way. Like say, if you've got a very complex project that requires a really comprehensive
Mhm.
proposal and a lot of research to be able to create that proposal, then I think that's probably a good way of approaching it. That you charge them, and if they take out they work with you on that project, then they basically have that amount taken off the total price. So, you know, that's kind of like a bit of a win-win for everybody there. I think. For me, probably a little different. I think before you even get the proposal phase, you're going to end up having more than one meeting generally. Your initial contact is going to be,
Mhm.
they're looking for a website, they're going to give you some basic information. But the reality is, before you can get to the point of creating any kind of proposal that has any merit to it, you're going to need to find out a good, solid understanding of what they're looking for and have that conversation to maybe educate them on the things they need as opposed to the things they may think they want, all those kinds of things that go with it. I think by the time you've done that, you've got a good solid understanding of whether this is going to be a client that's going to be a good fit, someone that's going to pay, someone that has the budget. I mean, don't ever be afraid to talk
Mm.
about budgets. They've got the budget to work with you, and if that all kind of pans out, then you get the proposal phase. That's a good chance then to find out whether you're going to win it or not. But if you do get to the point of creating a proposal and you just feel like, well, this isn't a client that I really want to work with, or this isn't going to, they're not going to go for this deal anyway, then, I mean, with a tool like Better Proposals or Fresh Proposals, which I think we looked at a little while back, because they're so quick to put a basic proposal together, you could literally spend 15 minutes as opposed to
Mm.
spending several hours. You could put together a very brief proposal. You can price it to whatever you think is going to be reasonable for the project itself, even if you know they're not going to go for it. And that way, you don't waste too much time on doing that. Whereas you probably spend more time on a project that's either coming from a a recommendation that's coming to you from a previous client that you've worked with, or someone you just get a good feeling that
Yeah.
unless the price is going to be crazy, you're going to probably win the job. Then you put more time and effort into it. But I've never really
Yeah.
charged for creating a proposal. But I think I would probably take Kay's advice there that if I was going to work on something that was really quite a comprehensive project that required a lot of research and therefore a lot of time spent on creating that proposal, I think Kay's way of approaching that is probably one of the best ways of doing it. You'd say, yes, I'm going to charge you for it because all this work's involved. But if you go with me, you're going to have that taken off the overall price. So you're not going to be out of pocket whatsoever. If you don't, well, you paid me for the time that I spent getting all this information together for you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I have a big project coming out on Monday. It's a 70 pages website. So at the beginning, the client they didn't really know what they wanted to do. And I asked them, do you have a document with, basically the brief, what you want? And they didn't have it. So what I proposed to them, okay, I'm going to help you with that, with the process. We're going to define it together, but it's going to take some time. So they paid me an amount for doing that. And the reason why I charge is because, like, I think like everyone else, when I was just a junior, I did that for free. And then what happened? The client was really happy, and then he found someone that did it for cheaper. The cheapo
Well, you basically done the
thing.
brief.
Yeah, I done the brief. I worked 3 weeks on it, and you went to work with someone else who did it for 1/10 of what I charged. But then, cut a long story short, 1 year after, they came back to me to say, well, we want to work with you because we didn't get what we wanted, but still, it still felt sour all the time I
Mm.
spent on this project. So now that's the way I do it. And I said, okay, I'm going to charge you that. But if you decide to do the final work for me with me, I'm going to withdraw that amount from the final amount. So it's kind of an incentive, and it works well. It
Yeah.
works well in my experience.
Yeah, excellent answer. Well, I'm going to say that's all the questions we're going to take now because, like I say, I'm conscious of the fact that we've been basically streaming for the last 2 hours, which it seems to fly by anyway. So I want to say thank you very much to Kay for being my guest tonight, for getting involved, for answering so many
My
questions so
pleasure.
succinctly. It's been an absolute pleasure. And just thank you very much for everybody that's joined in tonight. The questions, the comments, the feedback, as always, is absolutely invaluable. And I'll be back on air in the next live stream in 2 weeks' time. So be sure to do that. And if you'd like to see Kay come back on again and we could cover another topic in the future, let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments, let me know over on the Facebook group. And don't forget to head over to Kay's YouTube channel and make sure you hit that subscribe button and slap the bell icon to be notified as soon as new content has been added. So thank you very much, Kay. If there's anything you want to say now, please do say so, and then we'll wrap the stream up.
I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm really thrilled to meet your audience. It was really great. I hope we're gonna have some more streams like that because I didn't see the time fly, so I had a really great time. So thank you for all of you, for all the comments. I really appreciate it.
Awesome stuff. Well, I can see we've already got some people that want you to come back on, so I think we'll have to do this a little bit more regularly, and we'll do a live stream every couple of weeks, every couple of months or something, and we'll pick a topic and we'll discuss it like we've done tonight because I think it's been incredibly invaluable for not only myself but I think for everybody that's joined in tonight. So thank you very much, Kate. I shall wrap this stream up now, and we shall see you all in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining in tonight, and take care and look after yourselves.
Thank you. See you soon.